Welcome, the Lord's chosen. Not every war is fought in the open. Some are fought in the group chat while everyone is pretending to be fine. Chosen ones, today we're stepping into a truth most people never dare to say out loud. Sometimes the people closest to you aren't cheering, they're competing, quietly, strategically, and badly. Because when you walk into the room, the whole dynamic shifts like someone just switched the Wi-Fi password and didn't tell the others. Here's a fact. Psychologists say that hidden rivalry among friends is one of the most common forms of social tension, and the least admitted. Translation: most people would rather confess their Google search history than admit they're low-key intimidated by someone they hang out with. And that's where you come in. See, you didn't ask for attention, but your presence rearranged the emotional furniture. You didn't ask to be a standard, but somehow you became the scoreboard. You didn't sign up to be a prize, yet an entire secret competition broke out around you like a midnight tournament nobody registered for, but everybody is panicking to win. Friends who once laughed with you are suddenly analyzing you. People who once clapped for you now clap only when you trip, because that's the only time they feel ahead. And the ones who used to say we're all winning together have magically developed Olympic-level sprinting skills every time you succeed. It's wild. You're over there minding your business, charging your phone, drinking water, living your life. And somewhere in the background, 3 people you thought were peaceful are in an emotional MMA match, trying to make sure you don't get too far. Not because you're threatening, not because you're dramatic, but because you're the first person in their circle who made elevation look normal. So buckle up, because today we're dissecting the quiet envy, the hidden rivalry, and the psychological tug-of-war that erupts when a chosen one, unknowingly, becomes a walking prize in a competition they didn't even agree to join. This is where things get real, raw, revealing, and just a little bit uncomfortable for anyone who thought they were hiding their jealousy behind "lol, that's crazy." Number 1, you became the metric they secretly measure themselves against. There's something unsettling that happens when someone who never meant to compete becomes the quiet standard everyone else can't stop comparing themselves to. That's what you unknowingly turned into. You didn't brag, you didn't parade your progress, you didn't shove your wins in anyone's face. You simply evolved. And that evolution became a mirror they didn't ask for, but suddenly couldn't escape. People around you started taking mental notes without even realizing it. The way you handle pressure, the way you move through setbacks without broadcasting every bruise, the way you try, fail, learn, and keep going without needing applause or permission. Your growth exposed the shortcuts they've been taking in their own lives, and whether they admit it or not, it bothers them. It bothers them deeply. So instead of celebrating you, they began measuring themselves against you. Not openly, of course. Secret competition never announces itself, but you can feel it in their energy. The slight tension when you share good news, the shift in their tone when you talk about progress, the way they rush to announce their own accomplishments right after you mention yours. It's subtle, but it's real. The irony is that you're not even playing the same game. You're running your race, building your life, fixing what needs fixing, and trying to grow from the inside out. They, on the other hand, are constantly comparing their highlight reel to your real life, and that creates an emotional pressure cooker they don't want to admit to. You became the yardstick, the benchmark, the unspoken measuring tape that determines whether they feel ahead or behind. And because they can't openly say any of this without exposing their insecurity, they turn that silent comparison into a private competition they hope you never notice. But you do notice, not because you're looking for it, but because the shift gives itself away in the smallest ways. The forced laughs, the hesitant congratulations, the random, unnecessary one-upmanship. All of it traces back to one truth: They wish they weren't comparing themselves to you, but they can't help it. You raise the bar by simply living, and they're trying to catch up without ever admitting you set it. Number 2, they don't want what you have. They want the version of themselves they see reflected in you. This is one of the most confusing parts of hidden jealousy, because on the surface it looks like people want your achievements, your relationships, or your opportunities. But the truth cuts much deeper. What they crave isn't your life. It's the version of themselves they believe they could have been if they had your courage, your discipline, your resilience, or your mindset. You didn't just succeed, you revealed a possibility in them that they abandoned a long time ago. Your presence reminds them of choices they never made, dreams they left sitting in notebooks, talents they never developed, risks they were too afraid to take. You're not their rival. You're their unfinished business walking around in real time. So their admiration mixes with irritation, not because you did anything wrong, but because you woke up a part of them they've been trying to ignore. You become living proof that certain goals were never impossible. They were just inconvenient for them. It stings to see someone with the same 24 hours, same background, or same challenges doing what they convinced themselves couldn't be done. The internal conflict grows quietly. They like you, but they resent the reflection you force them to see. They support you, but your progress reminds them of their own stagnation. They want to clap, but every applause echoes inside them like a reminder of the work they avoided. And this creates a strange dynamic. They study you, copy you, imitate your approach, but not because they want to be you. They're trying to reconnect with the stronger, braver, more capable version of themselves they lost touch with. You simply became the trigger. It isn't your success they're chasing, it's their own potential dressed in your results. And that's why the energy gets weird. It's hard for them to celebrate you without feeling like they're mourning themselves at the same time. You didn't steal their shine, you reminded them they never used it. Number 3, they study you in silence, not to understand you, but to reverse engineer your outcomes. Some people don't just notice your growth, they obsess over it. They watch what you do, how you act, who you talk to, and even the small choices that seem insignificant. But the reason isn't admiration or curiosity. They aren't trying to understand you. They're trying to figure out how to replicate your results without doing the real work you did to earn them. Every post you make, every subtle victory you share, becomes data in their private analysis. They track patterns, habits, and behaviors as if you're a case study, a puzzle to solve. They dissect your daily rhythm, the way you prioritize, the way you handle setbacks, the way you show up for yourself, even when no one is watching. And they want the shortcut. They want to apply your formula, but skip the discipline, the patience, and the late nights that actually built it. This silent scrutiny creates a strange tension in every interaction. Compliments feel a little off. Curiosity feels a little forced, and questions are layered with hidden motives. The truth is, they're not engaging with you, they're auditing you. Every casual conversation, every story you share, every move you make is catalogued. They're attempting to recreate your life, but without the sweat, the mistakes, and the lessons that got you there. It's fascinating and unsettling at the same time, because you never realize it at first. It feels like normal friendship, normal interest, but there's a quiet pressure under the surface. They're taking notes silently, trying to decode what makes you successful, thinking that if they mimic the exterior, they can replicate the outcomes. What they don't understand is that your success isn't a template. It's messy, it's personal, and it's built on things they can't copy: resilience, intuition, self-awareness, and choices only you would make. They might study you in silence, but they will never truly capture you. And that's why your presence unnerves them. No matter how much they analyze, they can't reverse engineer a life they weren't willing to live. Number 4, their jealousy isn't loud, it's strategic. Some people would never openly show their jealousy because that would expose too much. They don't want to look bitter or insecure, so instead of confronting their feelings, they disguise them behind careful, calculated behaviors. Their jealousy becomes a strategy, not an outburst. They play it smart, quiet, and controlled, because the goal isn't to show emotion, it's to manage perception while still feeding their ego. They won't sabotage you publicly, and they won't argue with you about your success. That would make their intentions too obvious. Instead, they slow down their support when you need it most. They respond to your wins with that lukewarm nice that feels more like a period than a celebration. They conveniently forget to tell you about opportunities that could help you. They downplay your achievements like they're nothing special. They don't attack your goals. They just quietly refuse to contribute to them. Their jealousy shows up in the things they don't do, the congratulations that come late, the claps that never reach their hands, the encouragement that sounds like a warning, the advice that feels like doubt wrapped in concern. They're not trying to destroy you. They're trying to make sure you don't get too far ahead. It's not personal to them. It's survival. What makes it more unsettling is how clean their actions look on the surface. You can't point to one dramatic moment and call it sabotage. It's the small cuts, the subtle disappointments, the patterns that reveal their intentions over time. They operate with the kind of precision that comes from fear. Not fear of losing you, but fear of losing their spot in the hierarchy they built in their mind. They celebrate your mistakes internally because it reassures them. It makes them feel temporarily safer, momentarily equal, briefly on top. They don't say it out loud, but the energy shifts. You can feel it. Something cold behind the smile. Something tense behind the "I'm happy for you." Their jealousy is strategic because they still want access to you, but they don't want you to surpass them. So they stay close enough to watch, but distant enough to hope you stumble. It's not loud, it's quiet, calculated, and crafted to look harmless until you pay attention. Number 5, you trigger their abandoned ambitions. There's a specific kind of discomfort you create in certain people, and it has nothing to do with anything you said or did to them. It comes from the fact that your progress wakes up parts of them they buried years ago. You don't just remind them of what's possible. You remind them of what they didn't do. And that sting hits deeper than jealousy. It's regret wrapped in envy, mixed with the bitter flavor of self-blame they don't want to taste. Every time you elevate, whether it's a small improvement or a major breakthrough, there's a quiet voice inside them whispering, "That could have been me, if I hadn't given up." That whisper turns into irritation, not at you, but at the version of themselves they abandoned. Your life becomes proof that their excuses weren't as solid as they believed. You didn't invalidate them. Your growth did. They remember the dreams they once talked about with confidence, the visions they swore they would chase, the plans they started but never finished, the risks they meant to take but postponed until the moment passed. Seeing you follow through exposes the gap between who they wanted to be and who they allowed themselves to become. You are the living, breathing contrast. You're what dedication looks like. You're what consistency produces. You're what courage creates. And that frustrates them because it highlights every abandoned goal collecting dust in the back of their mind. They aren't angry at your success. They're angry at the part of them that quit. But instead of sitting with that truth, they project the discomfort outward. That's why your elevation feels like a personal attack to people who have neglected their own potential. The emotional conflict inside them is messy. They want to. Number 6, Your authenticity makes their performed confidence collapse. There's a type of insecurity that thrives around people who try too hard. They craft their personalities, polish their stories, and rehearse their confidence until it looks effortless. But it's not. Then you show up, unfiltered, unapologetic, and natural, and suddenly their carefully built facade starts to crumble. You don't need to perform or embellish. You don't need applause or validation. Your presence alone exposes the cracks in the armor they spent years perfecting. They notice it immediately. The ease with which you move through conversations, handle challenges, and maintain composure becomes a silent threat. Your calm isn't weak, it's controlled. Your confidence isn't loud, it's steady, and that's terrifying to them because it makes their rehearsed charm look forced. Every joke that lands naturally, every word that resonates without planning, every moment of self-possession highlights how much energy they spend pretending to be someone they're not. They panic quietly. They start second-guessing themselves in ways they never did before. The compliments they offer feel hollow. Their attempts to impress come off stiff, and their casual confidence begins to falter in your presence. You didn't have to do anything dramatic. Just being yourself was enough to make their constructed self seem artificial. Your authenticity forces them to confront a truth they avoid. Real influence and respect aren't earned through appearances or rehearsed moves. They come from consistency, integrity, and self-possession. They see it in you and feel powerless to replicate it, because it isn't something they can fake indefinitely. You've made it clear that genuine power doesn't shout, it doesn't need props, and it doesn't rely on anyone else's recognition. And that's why your authenticity unsettles them. They can mimic your actions, copy your style, even echo your words, but they can't replicate your essence. Your natural presence is a mirror they don't want to look into, and every time they catch a glimpse, the illusion they've built begins to collapse. Number 7, you expose the friend who wanted you small. Not everyone who calls themselves your friend is rooting for your full growth. Some people are comfortable with you, as long as you stay within the boundaries they've unconsciously set for you. They support the version of you that doesn't challenge them, that doesn't outshine them, and that fits neatly into their sense of balance. But the moment you start expanding beyond that, the moment your growth demands more space, energy, or acknowledgement, their support suddenly feels thin, reluctant, or even resentful. Your elevation becomes a mirror to their complacency. It highlights the parts of themselves they've been avoiding, the ambition they never chased, the risks they refused to take, the self-discipline they neglected. And because facing that would mean confronting their own shortcomings, they externalize it. Instead of celebrating your success, they make it feel like an attack on them. They may not say it openly. They may continue to smile, nod, and encourage you. But there's a tension underneath, subtle yet palpable. The more you rise, the more they realize that the comfort they felt in your previous limitations is gone. Your growth doesn't just threaten their ego, it unsettles the status quo they've relied on for years. This kind of friend is often revealed not through dramatic confrontation, but through quiet behaviors. They stop sharing opportunities, they critique the choices you once made freely, or they offer lukewarm praise where genuine excitement used to be. Your progress forces them to confront a truth they would rather ignore. Supporting you fully might require them to grow themselves. And not everyone is willing to pay that price. Your expansion exposes them. It separates those who genuinely want to see you thrive from those who only wanted to see you small enough to remain familiar, comfortable, and contained. The truth is, your elevation doesn't create enemies. It reveals who they already were. Number 8, they want proximity without the price. Some people aren't jealous of your success. They're envious of the effort behind it. They want to be near the results, to bask in the glow of your accomplishments, but they don't want to do the work that actually created them. They want the excitement of your breakthroughs, the attention you draw, and the admiration you earn, but without the sacrifices, the late nights, or the relentless discipline that built it. Being around you exposes how little they've invested in themselves. It's uncomfortable because proximity forces a comparison they've been avoiding. Watching your progress casually, they realize that their own growth feels stagnant, minimal, or even non-existent. And instead of using that awareness as motivation, they often choose to keep you close while trying to claim a share of your light, hoping to absorb your energy without paying the cost. They'll smile, nod, and say all the right things, but the truth is that your presence reminds them of every corner they've neglected in their own life, every habit they didn't form, every risk they didn't take, every skill they didn't sharpen, suddenly feels amplified in contrast to your commitment. Your proximity is uncomfortable because it forces them to see what they avoided, but they're not ready or willing to face it fully. This is why their actions feel calculated. They want to stay connected, not to grow alongside you, but to benefit from your shine. They cheer quietly when you succeed, not because they're inspired, but because they want to appear supportive while hoping to ride the wave of your energy. They want to feel part of the momentum without contributing to it, and your existence makes that strategy painfully obvious. You didn't ask for this dynamic. You just showed up, did the work, and got results. Their desire to remain close without paying the price isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their own unwillingness to earn it. And because they can't produce it themselves, being near you becomes both intoxicating and threatening, a constant reminder of the effort they're not willing to make. Number 9, they secretly compete because you don't need an audience to win. Some people measure success by attention. They thrive on recognition, approval, and applause. They need the spotlight to validate their effort, the crowd to confirm their progress. But you operate differently. You don't perform for praise, you don't chase validation, and you certainly don't need anyone to witness your wins to make them real. Your victories exist independently of applause, and that alone unsettles those who depend on external acknowledgement. Because they can't understand what drives you, they feel a quiet, gnawing frustration. How do you succeed without performing? How do you grow without broadcasting it? How do you maintain momentum when no one is cheering you on? They secretly study you, trying to find the triggers, the methods, the shortcuts that explain your results. But nothing matches your discipline, your focus, or your resilience. You're an enigma in a world that rewards showmanship. This is why they start competing quietly. Not openly, not directly, because confronting you is impossible. They can't intimidate you, can't distract you, and can't manipulate you. Competing with someone who doesn't rely on external validation is like trying to push a wall that refuses to move. Every attempt feels futile, every maneuver feels exposed, and every comparison leaves them feeling smaller. The irony is that their competition is almost entirely internal. They measure their worth against you, even when you're unaware. Every step you take silently raises the bar for them, and because they can't replicate your motivation, they feel perpetually behind. You've created a new standard without even trying, and that's intimidating in ways they can't admit. They're not trying to beat you in front of the world. They're trying to catch up to the invisible engine that fuels you. And no amount of copying, strategizing, or posturing can recreate it. Your self-sustained momentum is proof that real power doesn't need an audience, and that truth threatens anyone who relies on applause to define themselves. Number 10, they fear you'll outgrow the version of them you outgrew first. There's a subtle, almost invisible tension that emerges when someone realizes You've already evolved past the version of them you once knew. They remember who you were when they first connected with you, the comfortable, familiar version of yourself that fit neatly into their expectations and boundaries. But you didn't stay there. You grew, you changed, you leveled up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And while you were busy expanding, they remained anchored to the version of you they could control, influence, or relate to comfortably. Now your evolution feels threatening to them. They recognize that you've outpaced not just their expectations, but their own personal growth too. Your victories, your mindset, and your newfound clarity are constant reminders that they aren't keeping up. Not because you left them behind intentionally, but because they refuse to evolve at the same pace. They're still clinging to old dynamics, old assumptions, and old versions of friendship that no longer exist. Their competition isn't about surpassing you, it's about preserving relevance. They want to make sure they're still part of your story, still considered important, still noticed. Every step you take beyond the old version of yourself feels like a loss for them, a diminishing of their role in your life. It forces them to scramble, to strategize, to reclaim attention and influence they no longer deserve naturally. This is why their actions can feel desperate or calculated. They subtly challenge your choices, assert opinions more aggressively, or attempt to create narratives that pull you back into their comfort zone. They're not attacking you. They're trying to secure a place they no longer earn, hoping that your loyalty or familiarity will remain even as you continue to expand. You've outgrown them, and they sense it. Your forward momentum exposes their stagnation and forces them to act. The tension exists, not because of what you've done wrong, but because your growth shines a light on the version of them they refuse to evolve past. And now they're trying to make sure they're still relevant in a life that has already moved beyond them. Number 11, your evolution makes their stagnation visible. Your growth isn't just personal, it's a spotlight that reveals the uncomfortable truths about those around you. While you're moving forward, learning, adapting, and leveling up, they're stuck in the same cycles, avoiding the hard work, the decisions, and the sacrifices that real progress demands. They've been procrastinating on ambitions, ignoring opportunities, and settling into routines that keep them comfortable but stagnant. Your evolution exposes all of it. Every achievement of yours acts as a mirror, reflecting the gaps in their own lives. They don't need to be comparing themselves out loud. The contrast is impossible to ignore. Whether it's career progress, emotional intelligence, discipline, or even social confidence, your movement makes them painfully aware of the areas where they've chosen inactivity over action. It's not just jealousy, it's discomfort, a silent recognition of how far behind they've allowed themselves to fall. Because your growth is quiet but undeniable, they can't dismiss it. They can't argue that you're lucky or overhyped in a way that fully hides the truth. Every time you accomplish something, however small it seems to you, it highlights the procrastination, excuses, and avoidance in their own life. Your life becomes a living benchmark, a real-time scoreboard they can't escape. This visibility often triggers resentment or passive resistance. They might downplay your achievements, make subtle digs, or try to keep up appearances of support. They want to maintain control of the narrative, but they can't hide from the fact that your energy, ambition, and consistency shine a light on their inaction. You didn't create this tension intentionally. You simply chose to grow, to keep moving, and to evolve. The rest of them now have to face the reality they've been avoiding. And that's why your evolution feels threatening. They aren't threatened by you. They're confronted by the stagnation they've allowed in their own lives. And your momentum makes it impossible to ignore. Number 12, they don't compete for your position. They compete for your identity. Some people aren't just trying to outdo your achievements. They're trying to become you. Their envy isn't about the results you get, the milestones you hit, or the recognition you earn. It's about who you are, the essence, the presence, the way you exist in the world without apology. They look at your authenticity, your confidence, your habits, and the choices you make. And they become obsessed with replicating it because they've never been comfortable in their own skin. You notice it in subtle ways. They adopt your slang, copy your style, echo your opinions, and even mimic your gestures. They might imitate your weaknesses too because they think it completes the illusion of being you. The goal isn't just to compete. It's to replace the parts of themselves they've always doubted with parts they see in you. They're trying to occupy your identity because they don't know how to occupy their own. This form of rivalry is more dangerous than obvious competition because it's insidious. They aren't fighting for recognition in a visible way. They're quietly chipping away at your uniqueness, hoping that by mirroring you, they can claim some of the power or respect you naturally command. It's exhausting because it's not something you can confront with logic or proof. It's about essence, presence, and perception. The more you remain unapologetically yourself, the more uncomfortable it becomes for them. Every authentic choice you make, every unapologetic decision, every moment you show up fully as yourself highlights their insecurity. They can try to mimic it, but they can't manufacture the internal alignment that makes you whole. You didn't ask to be a standard, but you became one simply by being yourself. And that's why this type of competition exists. It's not about your achievements or your place in the world. It's about them trying to fill a void. They've ignored their whole life, using you as the blueprint. They can copy your moves, but they'll never replicate your identity. And that's what terrifies them the most. Number 13, they call you lucky, because accepting your discipline would obliterate their excuses. The truth about your success is simple, but most people can't face it. You earned it. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every step forward is the result of discipline, persistence, and relentless focus. But the people around you who are stuck in comparison can't acknowledge that. If they admitted that your results come from your effort, it would force them to confront their own choices, the long hours they skipped, the risks they avoided, the habits they neglected. Accepting your discipline would mean admitting their laziness, and that's unbearable for their ego. So they rewrite your story. Suddenly your victories aren't the product of hard work. They're luck, connections, timing, or some kind of unfair advantage. Every compliment you earn is downplayed. Every success is minimized. Their narrative isn't about you. It's about protecting their own self-image. By attributing your results to external factors, they can continue to justify their stagnation without facing uncomfortable truths. Calling you lucky is more than jealousy. It's self-preservation. It allows them to look at you and feel a temporary sense of equality, as if your achievements could have happened randomly and aren't replicable. They ignore the countless hours, the sacrifices, and the consistent discipline that actually built your outcomes. They prefer the illusion of randomness because it absolves them from accountability. The frustration is real, and it often leaks into subtle behaviors. Backhanded compliments, disbelief, or dismissive remarks. They want to appear supportive while quietly rationalizing why they haven't matched your growth. The story they tell themselves becomes a shield, protecting them from facing the gap between your effort and their excuses. Your discipline is undeniable, and your results reflect it. Their labeling it luck isn't about diminishing you. It's about avoiding a confrontation with themselves. The harder you work, and the more consistent you become, the more it threatens the fragile narratives they've built to justify remaining stagnant. You are proof that effort beats excuses, and that realization is one they aren't ready to own. Number 14. You didn't start the rivalry. Your unapologetic becoming did. The tension wasn't born from a fight, a disagreement, or even a challenge. They started competing the moment you decided to fully show up as yourself. Your decision to honor your goals, embrace your potential, and pursue your life unapologetically was enough to disrupt the balance they were comfortable with. You didn't ask for permission, and you didn't wait for validation, and that alone became a silent provocation to anyone clinging to old dynamics. Your self-respect became the threat. By setting boundaries, prioritizing your growth, and refusing to shrink for comfort, you showed them that your worth is non-negotiable. That very existence, calm, confident, and uncompromising, exposed the cracks in their own complacency. They weren't prepared to see someone refuse to be small, and suddenly the ground shifted under their feet. Your elevation became the evidence. Every step you took forward was a reminder that progress is earned through consistency, focus, and courage. They could no longer measure you against old standards because you had outgrown them. Each milestone of yours illuminated the gap between your momentum and their inertia, and that visibility made them uneasy, and your destiny became the crown they can't steal. The path you're walking, the life you're building, and the vision you're manifesting are uniquely yours. They can mimic behaviors, attempt to copy appearances, or criticize outcomes, but they can't take the foundation you're creating for yourself. Your becoming isn't just a personal journey. It's a declaration that your space, your influence, and your success belong only to you. This is why the rivalry exists, even when you never started it. You weren't trying to provoke, compete, or dominate. You simply chose yourself. And in doing so, you became untouchable in ways they can't replicate. Their struggle isn't with you. It's with the reality that your unapologetic becoming highlights everything they're unwilling or afraid to confront within themselves. Every moment of your growth, every step you've taken toward your potential has not gone unnoticed. Even in silence, even behind forced smiles, the energy you emit has shifted dynamics around you in ways others cannot openly admit. You didn't create rivalry, jealousy, or competition. It emerged simply because you chose yourself, because you refused to shrink, because you allowed your evolution to be unapologetically visible. You became a mirror that exposes fears, insecurities, and abandoned ambitions. You became the standard others measure themselves against. You didn't ask for the spotlight, yet your presence illuminated truths people never wanted to see about themselves. Your authenticity unsettles those who perform. Your discipline exposes excuses. Your self-respect threatens comfort zones. And your elevation reminds the stagnant of the potential they buried. Yet all of this is proof that your power isn't borrowed, it's cultivated. Your success isn't contingent on approval or applause. It is earned in quiet consistency, in the choices others avoid, in the relentless commitment to yourself. You are the living proof that true greatness doesn't need validation. It simply exists, undeniable and transformative. So let this be a reminder. The reactions of others say more about them than they do about you. The envy, the quiet competition, the attempts to copy or undermine, they are symptoms of your impact. Your journey, your self-respect, your unapologetic becoming, these are not threats to anyone but the fear they refuse to confront within themselves. Stand firm, rise higher, and continue to shine, because nothing and no one can diminish what is authentically yours. If this message resonated with you, if it awakens something inside that refuses to be small or silent, then join the movement. Subscribe to the channel for more insights that empower you to rise above the noise. Like this video to support the truth we're speaking. Share it with someone who needs to see that their elevation doesn't threaten anyone. It inspires them. Comment below and tell us how your journey has shifted dynamics around you. Your voice matters, your growth matters, and together we'll continue to rise unapologetically. Stay blessed always.